Hey guys, it's Jacob from the Mr. Addiction podcast, where we try to bring the realities of addiction through the eyes of those who have experienced it. So I've got my buddy on from Alabama today, Dustin. I've been in active addiction with Dustin, also been in recovery with Dustin. So I'm excited about it. And let's just jump straight in, Dustin. Um, Maybe for somebody who doesn't understand, how would you explain the way addiction has impacted your life?
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me on. Man, I would say that it's impacted my life in so many ways. A lot of bad. It's took me to places I never thought I would go or be. And, still to this day, I'm still paying, $13,000 in restitution. Like, it's still costing me today, even though I'm not struggling, like I was. But it affects me, man, in every way, shape, form. Like trying to get a house, trying to get property, stuff like that. You don't think about that stuff in addiction, like at first, because you think, oh, I'm going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? And it's not all right, man. It starts out with the little stuff. It starts out in high school, smoking weed, whatever, doing whatever. But eventually, man, that addiction builds and you can't stop it or contain it on your own. You like to think in your mind you can, but you can't, man, and it affects you so much. But also on the flip side of that, if I wouldn't have been, very, very deep in addiction, you know how deep I was when I was in recovery with you, man. I never would have learned how sick and bad I was if I didn't hit the rock. You know what I mean? If I didn't hit rock bottom. So I would say addiction. That if it wasn't for my addiction, I would have never learned the gospel, man, and stuff like that, which I believe is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate with that. All the times in treatment sometimes can seem like, well, that was all a failure if you relapse or whatever. But it definitely does show you. To me, addiction shows you, who you really are in front of God, in front of other people. So I can relate with that, man. What do you think, man? What do you think is the hardest part for you about maybe going out in public and people knowing you struggle with drugs? What do you think is the hardest thing for you in living with the fact that you struggle with addiction?
It's like, man, you go out in public, people know what you've done, they know you're an addict, past addict, most of the time people want to believe the worst in you. And dude, it's shameful, like to walk around, especially in a small town setting where everybody knows you. And, they know what you've done and they look at you as if you're like a ticking time bomb. You know what I mean? Like you're about to, like when's it going to happen? You know what I mean? Like not if, but when. And that's just really hard, man, walking around. That's another part of being an addict is, you're going to struggle with it, man, until you die. And it's just, it's hard, man, walking around when, people are just thinking, hey, man, when's it going to happen?
Right. And it's crazy, thinking about, I feel the same way, there's certain people, if I'm just honest, I don't even want to be around. It's not what they've done, it's what I've done. The shame,
Sure.
that I feel for what I've done. But it's crazy too, man, to think about how many people in our society really are addicted to something. And it's just hidden so well because there's so much shame to it. So what would you say to maybe somebody who doesn't take it serious? Like you didn't wake up one day, I didn't wake up one day. We didn't go from playing basketball together to, well, let's just go find the hardest drugs we can. So what do you say to people who think it would never happen to them or their kids?
Man, I would say you're oblivious to the fact that, we're not perfect and it can happen to anybody. And it happens to a lot of families where people don't think it happens to them. I would say, man, wake up, realize that if you don't try to do something about this now, early, you think it's game, it's all fun and jokes. We're getting high, whatever, cool. I'm Mr. Cool. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, getting all the likes. But really, dude, if you keep going with that addiction, it's going to build up so big, you're not going to be able to stop it, man. And you're going to hit the bottom, and it's not going to feel well, man. And And I didn't, like you said, I didn't wake up one day and was like, hey, man, just want to go get high, man. But it's like comes repetitive. Once you start doing it and saying, yes to the little stuff, that little stuff turns into very big stuff, man. Like I said, very big problems, man, prison, jail time, death. I've overdosed twice, dude. You know what I mean? So don't think it can't happen to you or your family members, because a lot of people do have, struggle with it. They just hide it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about how addiction's changed, even for us over the years. Like now you can go to a gas station and load up on anything you want, or you can, it's in like the rich communities now, fentanyl everywhere, and it's just going to get worse, man. And the last thing I'd ask you is, do you think that what do you think the hope is for all of us, man, that struggle? You think there's any hope?
Absolutely, man. I think the hope is stepping out of your box, getting out of your head, stop hiding it from people, and go talk to somebody, man. Whether you're a believer or a non-believer, go talk to somebody, a counselor, a teacher, your brother, your mom, your grandmother. Don't keep it in your head, man, because all it does is make it worse. And then you begin to think you're not an addict, because in your head you've lied yourself so much, but you can't hide it. You know what I mean? Like, I would say, man, don't be ashamed, because the shame's going to bury you the deeper and deeper you get. I would say go out and reach for help. Like I said, man, talk to somebody, dude. Like, talk to somebody that you can sit down and talk to, man, and just be comfortable. And just tell them anything, because if you don't, man, it's going to get bad. And that's when, you're left by yourself with your thoughts. I mean, that's not good for anybody, man. Introvert, extrovert, whatever, like, you got to be around good people, and you got to be around community, like you always, told me. Like, man, you got to be around people that are trying to do right. Because if you just are left to yourself, man, it's going to destroy you.
Yeah, man, secrets kill, right? They just rot our bones. And I know, man, I struggle with being transparent and telling people, and some of that's been people overreacting who don't understand like addiction or relapse. And then some people it's been, underreacting, but I definitely relate with you on that. And man, I appreciate your insight. You guys, try to subscribe to the channel, like, share. I know you hear that all the time, but we really want to get the word out. We want to do something with our life to push back on addiction. And we think the best way of doing that is prevention, educating people so they can hear it from people like Dustin of what's really happening, what's really going on. So our prayers with everyone that's struggling. We hope you're praying for us. And until next time, roll tide.